We're turning into the 19th chapter of Luke's Gospel. We're reading the story of Zacchaeus trying to see Jesus, looking at verses 1 through 10. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through it. A man was there named Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was rich. He was trying to see who Jesus was, but on account of the crowd, he could not because he was short in stature. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore tree to see him, because he was going to pass that way. When Jesus came to the place, he looked up and said to him, "Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for I must stay at your house today." So he hurried down and was happy to welcome him. All who saw it began to grumble and said, "He has gone to be the guest of one who is a sinner." Zacchaeus stood there and said to the Lord, "Look, half of my possessions, Lord, I will give to the poor. And if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I will pay back 4 times as much." Then Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because he too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek out and to save the lost." The crowd grumbled. If this story were in a movie, they would need to have a crowd scene. The crowd would have to practice grumbling. Now, I forget which teacher explained to us back in school days how they made crowd scenes work. This teacher was connected with the school play or a drama class we were in. See, somebody had discovered that if people repeated the word rhubarb over and over again, it could make a sound like a crowd in a conversation. This use of the word rhubarb came over to the United States from England. During the early days of radio in America, it was discovered that repeating Walla Walla created crowd noise for that medium. Other directors have used longer phrases such as peas and carrots or watermelons and cantaloupes. In Greek, the word for grumble is groguzo, and the word in Hebrew is ragan. The crowd could have been saying ragan that day. We do know this. Zacchaeus had a reputation problem. The crowd had a grumbling problem. Of course, Zacchaeus had shortcomings. He was short in stature. He was short in acceptance. He was not short on curiosity. We can see how Jesus turned that curiosity into redemption. It leads to the question, what can Jesus do with our spiritual curiosity? We take a moment to look at the man Zacchaeus. Because he was short in stature, he needed a tree to see Jesus. And we said Zacchaeus was short on reputation. He had ended up a tax collector for the Romans somehow. We will never know if Zacchaeus landed on hard times and had to go work for the Romans just to pay the bills. I seriously doubt that the guidance counselor at his yeshiva advised him to become a taxman for the Romans. Nobody in their right Jewish mind would tell a child to go work for the Romans. There is an irony to the story of Zacchaeus. Looking at his name in Hebrew, it actually means pure. That is right, one who is pure. Zacchaeus' parents must have wanted him to have a good Jewish upbringing. How a boy named Pure went to work for the unpure Romans will always be a mystery. Next, we look at the tree. This is the Jericho sycamore tree. As we have noted before, this tree still stands to this day in 2025. This would be a sycamore fig tree. It is not like American sycamore trees. This is an orchard tree that happened to be growing in town. The fig tree is a symbol of life and growth in Hebrew culture. So Zacchaeus uses this symbol of life and growth to help meet Jesus, the Lord of life and teacher of spiritual growth. Jesus is the vine and Zacchaeus climbed on the branches. This leads to the question, did Zacchaeus get his spiritual curiosity satisfied? The answer is yes. When Jesus says, "Zacchaeus, come on down, I'm coming to your house today," Jesus is saying, "Zacchaeus, I recognize your curiosity. You want to know more? Then I will come to your house for dinner, and then we can have a good rabbi talk after dinner." Because that was a tradition for rabbis to do teaching after dinner. Also, Jesus uses the dinner meeting to create respectability for Zacchaeus again. Most rabbis were not willing to go to a tax collector's house. This rabbi, Jesus, is willing to talk religion, with somebody that the religion has written off. Then we hear the crowd grumble. Whether they were saying rhubarb or walla walla, we will never know. But we know their meaning. They do not approve of this rabbi in that man's house. Zacchaeus, hearing all that grumbling, says, "Okay, people, I will make it right. I will clean up my house to make it worthy of Jesus." Zacchaeus declares, "I will give half of what I owe to the poor. If I have stolen from anybody, I will pay them back quadruple." Zacchaeus begins living up to his name. The man named Pure purifies his house for Jesus, his dinner guest. This is how salvation came to Zacchaeus' house. We see how Zacchaeus used the sycamore tree for a better look at Jesus. It helped him satisfy his spiritual curiosity. And this is chapter 19 already. A couple chapters later, Jesus is going to a different tree. This time it's going to be the tree that turned out to be the cross. Jesus will have to face that tree, not just for the salvation of one man such as Zacchaeus, but Jesus will have to face the tree to work out salvation for all of us. When Zacchaeus came down from the sycamore tree, he paid all his debts to God and neighbor. When Jesus went to the tree called the cross, he paid all our debts with God. Jesus paid our debts at Calvary. Jesus did satisfy Zacchaeus' spiritual curiosity. What about our spiritual curiosity? Are we still looking for a glimpse of Jesus? Has life distracted us, worn us out? What kind of tree are we willing to climb to see Jesus? What are we willing to do to get that glimpse of Jesus? Amen.